Hey there, welcome back to Verbose DevOps. I hope you're well. Today I'm going to talk in this video about how to get Kubernetes experience. So maybe you're already working with cloud infrastructure but you just don't have exposure to Kubernetes. Maybe you're a sysadmin or maybe something else completely. Either way, you want Kubernetes experience and it seems so difficult to get. In this video I'm going to tell you exactly what to do, how to do it, and why you need to do it this way. And in the end, I'm going to be telling you the best way to learn Kubernetes and be able to showcase the experience on your resume, which is super important to demonstrate to potential employers that you can do Kubernetes and therefore that they're going to hire you to do that for them. So here's a hint. You're going to have to create your own experience and take charge yourself. And I'm going to show you how to have a personal cluster hands-on and also a work cluster. So let's take a look. So first of all, personal cluster. Create your own cluster, build your own apps on it, and everything else on the platform. Do it yourself on your own personal cluster that you control. So option one is manage Kubernetes, and I say affordable, so you could do it on AWS or Azure or GCP, and some may have some element of free credits, but it tends to work out to be super expensive. Really, Kubernetes on the big three clouds is really not for individuals. It's more suited to companies who can afford the bill. So what I'm recommending instead is to use, there's a few offerings of managed Kubernetes. What they do is these companies all offer cloud servers, but recently they also offer a managed control plane, and it just takes that cloud server but manages it so that you can use it like Kubernetes, because ultimately Kubernetes is just virtual machines underneath with a control plane on top. So these are the three that offer it: Hetzner, Linode, DigitalOcean. Very similar kind of companies. The only one that I tried myself that I can tell you about is DigitalOcean. They call it Docs, D-O-K-S, and it's a very, very good product. I really like it. It's got a lot of one-click script installs for a lot of different Kubernetes programs, so you can really experiment, especially in the beginner stages. It's super easy to use. That would be my recommendation. Now, that's more affordable, but it still may be too expensive for some of you. So option two is to use a lightweight Kubernetes distribution and then install it on a VPS, which is like a remote server, a remote virtual machine. And there's a couple of different options here. The first is to use Oracle. So Oracle, I don't know if you're aware, they have a free tier, and you end up with about, if you Google it, you'll see their page, you end up with about 4 CPU or 24 gig RAM virtual machine, or you can like have that and have two. It's totally up to you how you want to do it, and this can be running 24/7 per month. This is what you end up with. The only thing is, right, and this is super generous offer, but the only thing is you do have to register a credit card with them. The reason is if you end up using too much, they need to be able to charge you for overage costs. So it's really cool, but you know, there is that kind of catch. So if that is a big problem for you, or you may want to consider it anyway, just get your own VPS, your own Linux virtual machine. I recommend going to lowendbox.com. This website has been around for a long, long time. What happens is different VPS providers, people who supply VMs, they go there and they typically promote themselves there, and it's written as blog posts, and you'll see some of the latest offers and stuff, and you just choose your country, go in there, and you can find out who's offering in your country. And what I recommend is to get, for this purpose, for a lightweight Kubernetes distribution, is 1 CPU and at least 1 gigabyte of RAM, preferably 2 gigabytes. And that's on the lower end of the scale, so it's definitely affordable. It's probably about $10 a month or something like that. Also, I recommend on lowendbox.com, go back through the posts and look at the really, really old posts as well, because what happens is when people want to owning these services, selling virtual machines, they'll typically promote themselves on Low End Box, and then they'll go away after a while and not bother advertising. So there's some old ones on there who are really good, really established, and have really good prices and really good offerings. And the great thing about this is that you can rebuild that VM just a few clicks, destroy it and then rebuild it, put the OS back on it, your choice of whichever, Ubuntu or CentOS or whatever, Rocky, etc. And that's how these VPS providers work. Super cool. Now, the other option, if really all of this is an issue for you, you can't make any kind of online payment at all, credit, debit card, crypto or whatever, then you can just get your own hardware instead. And spare laptop, or actually, if you have a fairly high-powered laptop, you could also just do it on your regular laptop, but it is kind of nice to do it on something that is not your daily driver, I would say. So a spare laptop or some kind of laptop, or even a Raspberry Pi. So that is another option. Now I put there in green, ideally you want this running 24/7. Now you can just instantiate your cluster and bootstrap it and get it all working, and then close it down when you're finished with it. And also, if you're renting by the hour, which the first three options, Hetzner, Line, or DigitalOcean do, then you also save money when you shut it all down. However, if you really want to learn Kubernetes, you really need this thing to be running 24/7. And part of that is because you'll be doing some things like registering your own domain, you'll be doing DNS, of course, and those kind of things are not really suited to just bringing them up when you feel like it and turning them off. It's really, really better to keep it on, and you really will learn a lot more. So that is my recommendation. You don't have to follow that. You can still learn without that, but I strongly recommend 24/7. So it would be better to use a cheaper service, keep it on all the time, than a more expensive service and only have it on every now and again. So the big pro of having a personal cluster is you get complete freedom, and it's also disposable. As I said, you can can it and you can start it again whenever with a fresh new Linux install whenever you want. So that is a nice thing. If you mess up your cluster, doesn't matter, it's completely disposable, you can start again. That's more difficult to do in a work environment or in something a bit more of a serious effort. So the con is that you can't really describe this on your resume. I mean, if you have a personal project section, you could put it in there, but obviously you can't put it against your name in a role in a job that you're doing, because if it's a personal cluster, it's got nothing to do with work. However, what you can do is you can use it to build a repo. So you can have like your favorite manifests that you're using to bootstrap your cluster with and store them in a repo. And if you have a GitHub repo that you showcase on your resume, then you can definitely showcase your work there. So that's an idea. Now the other option is a work cluster, and what I mean by this applies if you're already working in IT. So either you're DevOps or Dev or Cloud or Infra even. If you're working in a different career completely, like, I don't know, as an example, finance or marketing, then this isn't really applicable to you, because the company is not going to let you start building out IT infrastructure. I mean, that's a big security issue for starters. So how does this work? What you should do is get yourself requisition, somehow get access to your own VM that you can build something on, or even a physical server will also do, bare metal. If you're not able to get either of those things, a spare workstation will also do the job. Some kind of beefy workstation, you can store it under your desk. That'll also do the job, but ideally a VM or a physical server. Now what you'll be building is what I call a proof of concept. This is a common thing in IT. You're basically seeing if something has some kind of validity, can solve a problem. You're testing it out, potentially with the idea of putting it into production in future. And you can do this either sponsored or in your own time. Now what I mean by this is, sponsored means you can go to management and you can say, look, I'm going to do this in my own spare time outside of my goals that you already have me doing, and I'm going to do a proof of concept for a Kubernetes cluster and see how it may or may not be of use to this company. So I'll leave that to you. If you think they're just going to shut it down immediately, this proposal, then obviously don't bother going to management. However, if you think that they'll be even semi-interested, it's definitely worth getting officially, when I say sponsored, is just simply getting management approval. You know, not approval, but you've told management you're going to do it, they're well aware, and they're giving you their blessing. That's what that is. And if you need something later on down the line, this may really help, and also you'll be able to showcase it in a much better way. This will look way better on your resume. So look, if you don't think that's possible, just do it in your own time. You don't need to especially tell anyone what you're doing, or as long as you're not breaking any security rules or anything like that. Essentially you're just having a server and putting stuff on it. Okay, I'll leave you to be the judge of that, and maybe you want a word with security, but that's up to you. So treat it as a real project, not as just some kind of toy server that you're just playing around with. Treat it as real. Plan what you're going to do, your goals, problem statements, that kind of thing, stakeholders, document it, and eventually you'll demo it. That's why I say a real project look up project management and how to do that, because it's a real thing, and if you don't know already, it's a real skill that's going to be super useful to you in future. And as you do it, as you do this project, what I would say is, as part of the remit, as part of the scope, also include Argo CD. And Argo CD is a GitOps project. The other one is Flux. And what you'll be able to do is to showcase GitOps. And the reason I say this is because many companies that are using Kubernetes have not yet moved to GitOps. So even though you don't have any Kubernetes work experience yet, you will be able at the end of this to say, hey, look, I've actually gone further in some respects than even what you're doing. Look at this. I can talk about this. I can even show you if you want. So definitely, whatever you do in the scope of your work, make sure that you include Argo CD. I say Argo CD because it's more visual than Flux, but that's up to you. But I would recommend Argo CD. It's more popular as well. Be honest, by the way, with your analysis when you document this, when you demo it. Don't make any false recommendations. It's easy for some people who are doing what we call resume-driven development to say, oh, but you really need Kubernetes, and I've done a POC and now we should put it into production. You don't want to lead your company down a path for something that they shouldn't be using, that is bad advice, that is a bad recommendation. Be honest with your analysis, and at the very end, you will discover, as part of this learning process, whether it could be useful to your company or not useful. You'll already have gained so much learning from it anyway. Don't make false recommendations, please do not. So the main pro is you can stick this, you can put this on your resume and say that you've done Kubernetes, and you can talk about all the components that you've built out. So this is all the things that things like Cert Manager, Secrets Manager, add-ons, Prometheus stack, ELK, monitoring, all that kind of stuff, GitOps. You can do all that kind of stuff, so you can really showcase and list all the components. The con is that this is not in production, so obviously don't lie, and on your CV do not say that this is something that you rolled out to production unless you really did that eventually. So don't lie, that's not the purpose of doing this. The purpose of this is that you took it upon your own initiative when no one else thought about it to actually do a proof of concept at work and examine in a real project, albeit mostly in your own time, I think, but a real project to evaluate and fully evaluate Kubernetes in the workplace. And that is a really super amazing thing to be able to talk about and to put on your resume. So hope you found that interesting. Look, this channel is still pretty young, so please like and subscribe the video and check out the other ones as well. Really would love your support, especially while we're still growing and only have a handful of videos. There's much more to come, especially on the main areas of DevOps and cloud, such as Kubernetes, Python, Bash, primary public clouds like AWS, GCP, and Azure, and more besides. So really appreciate your support. Thank you for watching this video, and take care. Bye bye.